Hi, and welcome to InstaVision, the only show on television that dares to combine Insta and Vision in one thrilling program. I'm Glenn Reynolds, and I'm here wearing my Enjoy Capitalism t-shirt because I've got a very special guest today. I have Scott Bullock, senior attorney of the Institute for Justice, one of the few libertarian public interest law firms in the country. Welcome, Scott. Glad to have you here.
Great to be here, Glenn. Love the t-shirt.
Thank you. Well, you know, if you can't enjoy capitalism, what can you enjoy? That's what I say. So tell people a little about Institute for Justice. It's not your typical public interest outfit.
That's right. The Institute for Justice is a libertarian public interest law firm that was formed almost 20 years ago now, and we litigate in a wide variety of constitutional areas. But our four major focuses are on economic liberty, the right to earn an honest living, private property rights, really the foundation of all of our rights, the ability to use and own your property, free speech, and then also school choice. We are the nation's defenders of school choice programs that have been passed by legislatures to open up opportunities to parents and to children.
Well, you guys have gotten a lot of press this week, actually, with the case you've got in Louisiana. And I guess who could be better at earning an honest living than a bunch of monks, right? And yet you are standing up for some monks who build caskets against, what is it, the Louisiana Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors, which was in the Wall Street Journal just this morning, as a matter of fact. And you guys have done videos on some of your cases. We got a little clip of your video here. Can we go ahead and run the monk video now?
My husband really wanted to have a simple burial. He lived life simply, and he wanted to have just a simple wooden coffin. And so the monks were able to provide that service for us.
But it's a crime in Louisiana to sell a casket unless you're a state-licensed funeral director, and the government has launched proceedings to punish Abbot Justin Brown and Deacon Mark Coudrain.
For the sin of selling a casket, which is really just a box, the monks face crippling fines and even jail, and they've also lost an important way of supporting themselves.
So we're talking about throwing monks in jail for selling coffins. Now this can't be on a public health basis, right? Because, I mean, the people in them are already dead. What's going to go wrong? What's the excuse for this?
Well, it's incredible. In the Wall Street Journal piece today, the funeral directors actually used the excuse of, well, this is going to cut into our profits if we allow the monks and others to sell caskets. Yeah, that's basically what competition and free markets are all about. And then the other funeral director stated that, well, we need these regulations because a quarter of Americans are overweight, and the monks might not know how to build caskets that are oversized. That's the type of justifications that the other side has to stoop to try to justify what is obviously a protectionist law. It is only there to protect the profits of the funeral industry. But unfortunately, the licensing board, the Board of Embalmers and Funeral Directors, is made up of licensed funeral directors. 8 out of the 9 folks on the board have a vested interest in keeping newcomers out of the marketplace. Economic protectionism cannot and should not be a justification for the abuse of government power, and that's the issue we're going to be putting before the federal court in New Orleans, and it's one of the most important legal issues in economic liberty in the country today.
You know, it's interesting because I think most people start with the assumption that when you hear about regulation by a state licensing board or something, that it's really about the public health or safety or somehow ensuring some degree of competence. And it doesn't seem like it works out that way very often, does it? I mean, I know you guys have looked at everything from hair braiders to interior decorators, and there seems to be kind of a thread of economic protectionism in these things rather than consumer protection, as you might think.
That's absolutely right, and that's one of the reasons why it is so important to have these issues litigated in court and for courts to become engaged in these issues. The problem since the New Deal really is that courts have stepped completely away from protecting economic rights, the right to earn an honest living that really applies to everybody, including monks. They have to provide for themselves as well, and that's the reason why the abbey started making the caskets, was to pay for their health care, to pay for the cost of education, and so forth. So we cannot have courts turning a blind eye toward essential constitutional freedoms such as the right to earn an honest living. And as you stated, Glenn, most licensing boards, the intent is to restrict competition, to raise the profits of the folks that are already in the industry, and they do not serve any legitimate public health and safety justifications.
Now let's talk about another Institute for Justice initiative. You guys have also been going after civil forfeiture provisions in a number of areas, and that's another thing that's going on where you don't have to even commit a crime. You don't have to be even charged, much less convicted with a crime, for the government to just come, take your stuff, sell it, and keep the money. And you guys have done a video on that too, which I think we have an excerpt of. So let's do the civil forfeiture video.
If police suspect that you committed a crime, they can arrest you and put you on trial. At that trial, prosecutors must prove you are guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But if police suspect your car was involved in a crime, they can take it, sell it, and in most places, pocket the proceeds to pad their budgets. They need not prove you committed any crime, or even arrest you to take your property away. Welcome to the upside-down world of civil asset forfeiture.
Now, I actually know a guy here in Knoxville who was hit by I think it was a sheriff's deputy driving drunk in a sheriff's cruiser. Could we seize that car now because it was it was used in a crime? I mean, could I just take it and sell it as a way of encouraging the sheriff's department not to let their deputies drive drunk?
Yeah, it wouldn't be great for citizens to have this type of power. It might make the government officials think twice about abusing it. Civil forfeiture is an incredible legal fiction that allows the government, as you were pointing out and as the video pointed out, to seize property regardless of the guilt or innocence of the property owner. And the actions themselves are against the property. That's why they have such bizarre titles. The name of a case we have right now in Texas is called State of Texas versus 2004 Chevrolet Silverado. So the actions are against the property, and the government can proceed against this property, and then the burden is on property owners to try to get their property back, which of course is the exact opposite in the criminal system, where the burden is on the government, and the government must prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Because this is a civil proceeding, most constitutional rights don't apply, and the government only needs to meet the much lesser standard of preponderance of the evidence, more than 50% as opposed to beyond a reasonable doubt. And what's really driving the abuse of these laws is the fact that in most states, police and prosecutors get to keep the property and currency and cars and yachts and that they seize for their own use. It gives them a direct financial incentive to go out and take as much property as possible. So like eminent domain that we've been very involved in and highlighting the abuses of, forfeiture is also an area where property rights are in great jeopardy, and one that we are determined to try to change the lay of the land in.
So yeah, it really sounds like just piracy out there. I mean, it's a, I think it was Albert J. Nock who said, think of the state as a band of thieves and you won't be far wrong. And most people think that's kind of exaggerated and, crazy anti-government sentiment and all of that. But it's really hard to know what you can say about somebody who can, in fact, just come and take your property and keep it and sell it and keep the money, and you don't even really get a day in court. And what about loser pays? I think they should have to pay your legal fees if you win and all these things. Is there a lot of backlash against this? Are other people upset about it besides just Institute for Justice and its supporters?
Well, it's starting to. It's one of these issues like eminent domain abuse, where the government takes land for not for public uses but for private development, that unites a lot of people across the typical ideological divides. People who are concerned about property rights, are concerned obviously about civil forfeiture. People who are on more traditional civil liberties issues are concerned about this. But most people aren't even aware that this goes on. It got some attention back in the 1990s when forfeiture laws were being abused. Congress passed a law which provided some greater procedural protections to property owners, but that law obviously didn't apply to state forfeiture provisions, which are still in effect. And it didn't do anything about changing this financial incentive system that's in place at the federal level and in the law of over 40 states. So the abuses really weren't curtailed to any great degree. And so when people find out about this, like when they found out about eminent domain abuse, they think, well, wait a minute, this can't happen in America, in a country that supposedly cherishes private property rights to the extent that we do. So it's a matter of raising awareness of this, filing strategic litigation, doing research to highlight these abuses, like we've done in a report that we issued this year called Policing for Profit. And it's a long-term project to really try to change the law very significantly and try to change the world.
Well, it's really very interesting. And the other thing I think that's been interesting is, particularly over the past year, I've noticed that Institute for Justice has been doing these videos about all of its cases and really getting the story of the case out via YouTube and out over the web and stuff. And I guess you used to have to hope that you'd be picked up in the Wall Street Journal or on 60 Minutes, and now you can sort of make your own publicity. And how's that working out for you?
It's been great. We have a really excellent team of folks here that have really brought us up to speed on this, and the production values have been outstanding. And it's a wonderful vehicle for getting the word out about what we're doing. And so we're very excited about it. I think there's been a great response to the videos and other types of new media that we've been using, and we're going to continue to promote that. Still doing the the written word as well, and doing the studies to buttress the arguments we make both in the court of public opinion and also in the court of law as well. But it's a wonderful mechanism for showing the real human toll that these laws take. It's not just an abuse of abstract constitutional rights, which we clearly care about and we're trying to vindicate, but these laws have real consequences for the folks that face the loss of their property, or for folks who, like the monks, are being threatened with exorbitant fines and even jail simply for selling a wooden box.
Well, I think it's done a great thing in terms of raising consciousness, and I'm happy to see you guys are out there, and I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. It was great being on.
That was Scott Bullock of the Institute for Justice. You can see them at ij.org. Thanks for tuning in to InstaVision, and we'll see you next week. Till then, have fun on the internet. Thanks.